In a recent article, one of the Habs head scouts, Marty Lapointe, revealed their strategy for the draft, and what he said has a lot of Habs fans excited, including us. We have to dive into this. You're going to want to hear it. Plus, we got to talk about Juraj, Slafkovsky, Cole Caufield, the top line, getting it done again despite the loss. Slav continuing his streak of dominance. Caufield going, Suzuki continuing his point streak, all that. Plus, a note on Florian Xhekaj coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. We're just going to get right into it, Jesse. We want to start with a bit of Florian. We love the Xhekajs around here, and Florian has been on a kind of a surprising tear. Now, here's the thing. When the Habs picked Florian Xhekaj, as we all saw, like Nick Brabrov kind of called him a unicorn, right? And that kind of is what he is. He's a big dude, really physical, but he can put the puck in the back of the net. But a lot of people thought, it's just kind of a joke of a pick. The Habs could have got him way later. Well, guess what he's doing? He now has 10 goals in his last 10 games played for the Brantford Bulldogs. And if we just take a look at his hockey DB, remember, 101st overall pick, people saying they could have got him in the 7th round. Yeah, maybe, but you want to get the guy if you like him, Jesse. 25 goals. He had 25 points in 68 games last year. He has 25 goals in 49 games this year. I know he got to work on his skating, but this is like, absolutely no one saw this coming from Florian Xhekaj.
And it's turning out into a draft steal because of it. Just how he's been able to ramp up his production. He's bringing a little bit of everything, right? Of course, we know him for the grit, for the sandpaper, but he'll surprise you every once in a while with like these highlight reel goals, multiple point games, left, right, side. He's basically doing everything he needs to do right now to get on the radar of the Montreal Canadiens. And I'm here for it because like Florian Xhekaj for me has the makings of the ideal bottom 6 player, where he's just going to come in with so much energy, so much intent, and you feel like how Arber through that similar type of play in a lot of the ways, that toughness and everything else has endeared him to Habs fans. You'd have to feel like Florian would probably have the easy pass as well into becoming like a fan favorite. Like how amazing that would that be to see? Because like every day it's starting to turn out more of a likelihood that we're going to see both the Xhekaj brothers in the future on this Montreal Canadiens team.
That would be ridiculous, and I would love to see it. Like you said, like, I mean, does he still have NHL upside? I think, like you said, a bottom 6 NHL player is probably what his ceiling is, but that would be amazing for a guy that a lot of people thought might not even get drafted, let alone in the 4th round, for him to turn around and be putting up an amazing scoring season while still being 6'4", being a physical specimen who can be a real pest in the opponent's side. It's amazing to see. Would love to see him teamed up with his brother Arber someday soon. So yeah, just a really cool note on Florian. But Jesse, we're going to get into the game now. We got to talk a bit about this. Juraj Slafkovsky, I'm sorry, that's bad. But it's, I tried. So, but they're still doing amazing. Yeah, Habs lost 7-4. The thing is that Habs expected goals against this game was like 2.5. So Monty had a very off night. On pretty much any other night, the Habs are winning this game. But as always, feel free to pause, take a look at the box score. Jesse, Caufield, 2 goals, 1 assist. Slafkovsky, an absolute snipe and an assist. Suzuki continuing his point streak, and while it was a rare off night, very off night for Samuel Montembeault, the team really came together. And I just want to show the stat card as well, because Caufield, again, just one of the top games from a Hab this season. Slafkovsky always seemingly in the top 3 on these. Mike Matheson with one of his worst games. But let's focus on the positives. Slavzilla is rolling again, Jesse, terrorizing the NHL. Is he ever going to stop? This first line legitimately looks elite.
Yeah, he's doing a little bit of everything. The laser shots, not just kind of coming out of his mouth, but like these laser shots in the back of the net. He's facilitating for other players right now. 5 goals in his last 6 games. Like, he's just really continuing. Like that shot, how he's so clever of how now we're seeing a couple times where he uses a player kind of as that screen and getting off that extremely quick and, dare I say, starting to get elite looking type of shot now. It's just absolutely incredible to see, and just what we're having, like how this is continuing, even for this whole first line, how his play is translated, to Nick Suzuki. 15 points in his last 9 games, keeping up a 9-game point streak, just playing like a pure captain, through in and throughout. Is just amazing to see.
Yeah, and the thing is, Slav could have had even more points if a certain player who was at the very bottom of this stat card passed him a bit more. And, I'm just saying, like, he did it once a couple games ago, and Slafkovsky put a one-timer right into the back of the net. But yeah, look, I don't know what's going on in Matheson's head. I wish he'd just look over. And I know Habs Twitter is going wild with that stuff too, but don't want to crap on Mike Matheson. He's still a great player despite the bad game. But yeah, just an overall solid game for the Habs offensively, Jesse. And yes, the goaltending was kind of lackluster, and maybe the defense tonight. I feel like the fact that we're seeing the Habs have legitimate offense now, and that first line really legitimately clicking every game is such a good sign for things to come.
That's really what it was about. Martin St. Louis definitely there. I think deserves a lot of the credit for this team always fighting, never really kind of giving up at all. And we were kind of there for very much part of this game. It was just in the second period, you kind of blink. Just a couple of mistakes, New York Rangers definitely having a lot of skill there. Kind of the small little differences in this game, but you have to feel like if our first line's getting just a little bit more support, we're definitely losing a lot of the faceoffs tonight. But if we have that 2C kind of, sharing the load offensively, winning a little more draws, like you have to feel like we're in this game, like we're not so far away from that Rangers team as it would seem, right? There's definitely some pieces that are missing, but I think it's pretty evident of what that is. So I think that's reassuring, for Kent, for everybody else. I think, Kirby obviously would have had to say it in this game and everything else. So amazing to see. I mean, Brendan Gignac kind of continues the French Phil Kessel with his very energetic play in the offensive zone. So, really happy to see that for him as well.
Had a goal called off. That was definitely a high stick. I don't think he argued, but yeah, still really cool. And I feel like the player you described, win a few more draws, contribute offense. I feel like you described Sean Monahan. Still makes me sad, but it is what it is. Habs with big loss, a lot of goals let in, but a lot of really, really good notes for the future of this team. Time to get into the juicy stuff, though, Jesse. We got some draft secrets revealed. Now, I'm not sure if a lot of you guys saw this because this came out about a week ago, but I haven't really seen it circulating on YouTube. So apologies if it's already out there. But I think we're kind of covering some stuff that maybe you guys haven't seen, and that has to do with Marty Lapointe, one of the Habs' top scouts, one of the heads of scouting. He's director of, is it European scouting or something else? I'm not sure, but Marty Lapointe is one of the directors of scouting for the Montreal Canadiens, and he had an interview where he was kind of talking about the draft. And a big thing that he said, well, I'll translate this to English as we go here. He said, there's not really 15 guys like Celebrini in this draft. He said, I can count maybe 5 guys that you could, qualify as elite. He said the draft pool is not that deep after the first round, in his opinion, but there's still going to be some good players in the second round. But then he says, the fact that there's a lot of defensemen could allow some forwards to slip further than we thought in the draft. He said, we'll see, the year's not done. There's always guys that'll kind of step up later in the season. And then he kind of says, well, we have a list of players we're going to target. We want to see the advantage in the second half, they want to take advantage of their opportunities. He said they're going to identify what they want to have, and then they'll talk to Kent Hughes. But Jesse, from all this stuff, this seems to imply to me that the Habs want a forward. The fact that they're like, good forwards could slip, and saying there's 5 elite forwards. To me, this sounds like the Habs are going to pick one of these 5 elite players, at least that they have. Well, there might be more by season's end, but it sounds to me like they want to go for a high potential forward in this draft, which is something Habs fans have been clamoring for. I think it's a great plan, and it's just awesome to hear Marty Lapointe say this. And also very interesting that he said he doesn't think there's much past the first round, maybe indicating that they'd be willing to move some picks to move up. I don't know.
Well, the Montreal Canadiens, definitely they're viewing like draft picks kind of like Pokemon. You want to just get as many as you can right now to really give them as much of a chance, but like these scouts, they're very good at their job. They're very underrated. Like he's absolutely right. Like for the vast majority of the time, the best part of the talent is taken in that first round, in that kind of first top half of it, right? But they have their list, absolutely. And I think it's very telling that they've identified the type of player that they're going for. I think rightfully so, kind of alternating with their first round picks, going more for, an offensive guy, then, last year, Reinbacher. Now we're probably going back, to an offensive player. And I think if we're looking at a player on this list that the Habs are most likely to go for, absolutely an offensive guy. I think they're definitely right barking up that tree. But then also looking at somebody with some defensive sensibilities as well, while still not kind of negating, taking away from that offense, which I think is so important as well. So they could just kind of be sound there as well. I think that's really the guy for the Montreal Canadiens. So, I mean, really interesting to see that this is kind of what they're focusing on. And, we're probably going to have a really good one come this summer.
I hope so. And I mean, I'd love to see some moves happen. But this also sounds to me like they're very much, even though Kent Hughes was saying they're going for established players, it sounds very much like they have some targets in mind. And yeah, without explicitly stating, we want a scoring forward, it's heavily implied. I'd love if the Habs could get Celebrini. Can you imagine? It would just be so amazing. But there's still so many other good players in this draft. I mean, there's so many to choose from. But let us know down below. What do you think? What do you think about the Habs going after a forward? Now, knowing the Habs, what we're going to end up with is another defenseman. But, it is what it is. We'll have to wait and see draft day. Obviously, we're going to be talking during the draft lottery, during the draft day. Can't wait to see it, but I think a lot of you guys are going to be happy that Marty Lapointe, one of the top scouts, is heavily implying that the Habs might just be looking for some help up front. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're like, 300 subs away from 11,000 now? And I don't know how many of you are still watching at this point. And if you are, leave a comment saying you're still watching, saying that you watched to the end. Really, really appreciate all of you. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.